Hey there, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here. Listen, if you've ever sat at your desk, watched some completely baffling interpersonal drama unfold by the water cooler and thought, what on earth is actually going on here? Well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're decoding the hidden, often invisible social dynamics that govern our 9-to-5 lives. We're going to dive into the hard science and the deep psychology of why we act the way we do at work.
So let's kick things off with a question. Why does your office sometimes feel, well, exactly like a dysfunctional family? I want to validate your everyday workplace frustrations right out of the gate here. That feeling? It isn't just in your head. The central premise of our explainer today is that, biologically speaking, the office is an emotional system just like a family. Yep, the exact same forces that drive your Thanksgiving dinner dynamics are driving your Tuesday morning staff meetings.
Here is the roadmap for the fascinating psychological journey we'll take today. We'll start with the office emotional system, move into the neuroscience of trust, explore the workplace friendship paradox, look at the threat of cronyism, and finally arm you with a tool called mastering self-differentiation.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the office emotional system, or the biological family at work. Let's unpack the unconscious forces driving our behavior.
To really get what's happening, we need to look at the work of psychiatrist Murray Bowen. He developed what's called the Bowen Family Systems Theory. And what makes this so incredibly relevant to our jobs is its foundation in natural systems. You see, Bowen realized that human beings possess a profound biological sensitivity to one another. We form an interconnected emotional system. Think of a herd of animals grazing in a field. If one animal detects a predator and tenses up, that anxiety ripples through the entire herd instantly. Well, humans do the exact same thing at work. When downsizing rumors start or a manager walks in totally stressed out, that anxiety is transmitted biologically from cubicle to cubicle, like wildfire.
So the real question is how we handle all that anxiety. And this brings us to Bowen's concept of triangles, which he called the basic building block of any emotional system. A triangle is basically just the involvement of a third person to stabilize intense anxiety between two other people. I want you to think back to a time when two feuding coworkers dragged you into a petty dispute. They weren't coming to you for a solution, right? They were triangling you in to relieve their own tension. They literally passed their anxiety onto you so they could feel more comfortable. It happens every single day.
In this comparison between use of self theory and Bowen theory's natural systems focus is so revealing. We often think that when coworkers act out, they're just being immature or acting like children, but Bowen theory shows us a natural systems focus. Our automatic, reactive workplace behaviors are actually a function of the primitive brain. When we snap at a colleague or get defensive, we aren't lacking maturity, we're just running on pure biological instinct.
Which sets us up perfectly for Section 2, the neuroscience of trust, where we'll look at how to calm that primitive brain.
Deep inside your brain sits your amygdala. Think of it as your ultimate built-in threat detector, and it is always on high alert for threats to your physical and, crucially, your emotional safety. When you experience a negative interaction at work, say your manager completely dismisses your idea in a meeting, it triggers the amygdala's alarm. Boom! You instantly go into a fight, flight, or freeze response. This creates what researchers call an away state. You become risk-averse, defensive, and you just close down. This protective mode absolutely kills trust in the workplace. But here's the fascinating part. We can actually flip that switch. Take these two responses to a coworker sharing some good news. An active, constructive response sounds like, "You totally deserve this. High five." That validates their joy. It creates a safe, toward emotional state where the brain is open, receptive, and primed for trust and connection. Conversely, a passive, destructive response like, "Wow, I wouldn't want your new workload," triggers that amygdala alarm. It dismisses the achievement and instantly severs trust.
And when we successfully build that trust through active, constructive responses, it naturally evolves into workplace friendships. That brings us to Section 3, the workplace friendship paradox, which is a real double-edged sword.
Just listen to this fantastic quote from Allison Beard. "Given the hours and interests we share with colleagues, work should be an easy place to build these relationships." And she's right. We spend more waking hours with our coworkers than we do with our own families. It is entirely biological and natural to seek deep connection, self-disclosure, and a sense of we-ness with the people we see day in and day out.
Communication scholar William Rawlins actually mapped this progression out into 6 clear stages. We usually start with role-limited interaction. That's where we rely on superficial scripts. You're the accountant, I'm the marketer. Then we find common ground in friendly relations.
If that goes well, we move toward friendship, sharing a bit more about ourselves. By stage 4, nascent friendship, we're actively choosing to spend time together, maybe grabbing a coffee. By stage 5, stabilized friendship, we have deep, stabilizing expectations. We trust this person implicitly. And of course, the final stage is waning friendship, simply because people switch jobs or relationships naturally change.
When we hit those stabilized friendship stages, the benefits are just incredible. Friendships at work create a profound sense of belonging. Research from Gallup even shows that having a best friend at work is linked to fewer workplace accidents. Why? Because people are literally looking out for each other's safety. It enhances creativity because we aren't terrified to share bold ideas, and it drastically increases psychological safety. This kind of social capital is a massive win for your mental health and the organization's bottom line. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Let's pivot to the darker complications of our office emotional system. In Section 4, the threat of cronyism, or when closeness corrupts.
You see, workplace friendships are a serious double-edged sword. When bonds get too tight, they can accidentally mutate into exclusionary cliques. Have you ever felt like a total outsider because you weren't part of the in-group that goes for drinks on Thursdays? Yeah, that's the dark side. It breeds rumors, gossip, and intense pressure to conform. If you don't fit the group identity, you face outsider status, missing out on crucial information and opportunities.
And at its absolute worst, it becomes cronyism. This happens when perceived closeness completely overrides merit and performance. When a manager promotes their work buddy over a much more qualified employee, it acts as a severe workplace stressor. The unfavored employees naturally respond to this completely unfair condition by just disengaging. It sabotages the company's meritocracy and breeds deep, systemic anxiety across the whole team.
So how on earth do we navigate this? How do we get the good stuff without falling into the traps of cliques and systemic anxiety? Let's hit our final section, Section 5, Mastering Self-Differentiation, which is really about surviving the matrix.
Rod Smith hit the nail on the head here. He says, not to differentiate is to fuse. To differentiate is to provide a platform for maximum growth and personal development for everyone in your circle of influence. In Bowen theory, differentiation of self is your ability to remain autonomous under group pressure. It means you can be highly connected to your coworkers, you can be a phenomenal friend, but you do not absorb the group's collective anxiety. You refuse to fuse with the panic of the herd. You stay clear, grounded, and focused on your values.
Let's look at how this plays out in the real world with this process flow used by organizational development consultants. Notice those actions at the top: define self, remain a neutral observer, and crucially, de-triangle. By introducing a calm, neutral, differentiated presence into the office, you can actually untangle those toxic triangles we talked about earlier. When someone tries to drag you into their drama, you just remain a non-anxious presence. Doing this actually forces the whole system to calm down and lowers the overall panic. It's like a superpower.
To make this super practical, here are 7 actionable boundaries for maintaining healthy work friendships from the LSC Business Review. First, discuss boundaries openly. Second, look out for exclusion. Be the person who invites the outsider in. Number 3 is absolutely massive. Avoid bonding on negativity. Listen, bonding over how much you hate the boss is a toxic emotional fusion. It isn't real friendship. 4, own your authenticity. 5, remember you really don't have to click with everyone. 6, keep team confidentiality. And finally, mind the boss-friend gap to prevent that dangerous cronyism we just talked about. This right here is your toolkit for protecting your professional integrity while still thriving socially.
Which leaves us with one final thought to close out this explainer. Tomorrow at work, when the emails are flying, the rumors are swirling, and everyone's amygdalas are firing on all cylinders, will you be a sponge for the system's anxiety, blindly absorbing and reacting to the herd? Or will you be differentiated? Will you be a calm, grounded platform for your team's growth? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.